Every time DJI releases a new Osmo Pocket, people seem to fall into one of two camps. Either it's the greatest travel camera ever made, or it's some sort of gimmick. Honestly, I've never been entirely sure where I land. But the new Pocket 4P is a pretty significant step forward for the Osmo series. There's finally a dual camera system, built-in storage, true log recording, and a new D-Log2 color profile that DJI claims can capture up to 17 stops of dynamic range. That's territory occupied by some pretty serious cinema cameras. So instead of spending this video reading the spec sheet or performing technical tests, I'm out here in the mountains of Washington with the Osmo Pocket 4P, and I'm gonna bring this little guy on a short hike and see where this camera fits in for a solo filmmaker like me. So first, let's talk about the biggest improvements with the Pocket 4P. And the most obvious is the new dual camera system. This is a long-awaited feature for the Pocket series, and yeah, I just couldn't be more excited to finally have two different lenses on a small little camera like this. Previous generations of the Pocket were limited to a single focal length, which meant if you wanted a tighter shot, your only real option was to digitally crop in. But now having both the wide angle and telephoto lens gives this camera so much more versatility in the field. The wide lens is great for capturing the scale of a landscape like this, while the telephoto lens lets you isolate details and create a bit more separation in your footage. It might seem like a small change on paper, but in practice, it makes this camera feel significantly more versatile. The second big improvement is the addition of true log recording profiles. As someone who spends a lot of time color grading, I couldn't be more excited about the addition of D-Log and D-Log2. Log footage preserves more information in the highlights and shadows than Rec 709 or D-Log-M, and it gives you so much more flexibility when it's time to create a final look. We'll take a closer look at D-Log and D-Log2 later on in this video, but so far I've been really impressed by what I'm seeing. And finally, there's now 100 gigabytes of built-in storage on this camera. It's not the most exciting addition, but for someone like me who's constantly forgetting their SD cards at home, it's a true lifesaver. And yeah, I can't tell you how many micro SD cards I've lost over the years, but it's an embarrassing amount. Beyond these improvements, the Pocket 4P is still very much pocket-sized. And that's one of the biggest upsides to this camera in my opinion, because compared to a larger camera setup, it just takes a lot less effort to get rolling. With bigger camera packages, there's always a bit of friction built into the process. But with the Pocket 4P, all of that friction is removed. The camera is ready to roll with the flip of the screen, and I just absolutely love how quick that is when it comes to spontaneous creativity. Also, because the Pocket 4P is so small and so lightweight, it's really easy to get creative with how you use this camera. So as you guys can see here, I have a suction cup mount on the hood of my car, and in the past I've put my cinema rig up here, and that puts a lot of fear into me. But with Pocket 4P, I really don't have to worry too much about maxing out the weight limit on this, and the result is some really cool rolling shots, and yeah, just a really creative way to add motion to my films. Another thing that I've been drawn to with the Pocket 4P is the depth of field that you can create with the new telephoto lens. On a sensor of this size, you usually don't expect much separation between your subject and background. Most of the time, everything feels fairly flat and wide, but the new telephoto lens changes that. It gives you a much tighter field of view, and more importantly, it starts to isolate your subject in a way that feels a lot more intentional. Even simple moments like hiking down a trail start to feel a bit more cinematic just because the background naturally falls away a little bit more. This definitely isn't going to replace a larger camera with a prime lens, but for something that fits in your pocket, it's a noticeable step up for how this footage feels. Now, there are a couple things that I don't love about the Pocket 4P, and the first is more of a personal preference than anything else. I've never fully loved shooting on a gimbal. I've just never really understood the creative process behind a gimbal, and I just far prefer handheld footage. To me, handheld footage just feels a lot more human and organic. But that's kind of missing the entire point of the Pocket 4P. Like, this is a tiny gimbal that fits in your pocket. So this is probably a pretty unfair criticism from my part. But my second criticism is a bit more practical, and it comes down to the autofocus in the Pocket 4P. Honestly, one of the most frustrating parts of shooting with the Pocket 4P is how difficult it is to lock a focus point in a reliable way. It often feels like you're leaving a lot up to the camera rather than being able to control the focus yourself. It would be really nice to have the option to lock your focus point in the camera, or even enable a manual focus option. But as of right now, with the firmware that I'm running on here, there's just no way to do that. And that can be really frustrating when you're trying to focus on something in the foreground using the telephoto lens, or if you're just wanting to rack your focus and not have it follow you through the frame. And yeah, I'd really love a more intentional way to enable or disable focus in the Pocket series. One of the things that really stands out to me about the Pocket system is just how incredible it is for solo filmmaking. And a lot of that comes down to the Mimo app. The Mimo app is an app from DJI that allows me to connect to the Osmo Pocket wirelessly. And in practice, what the Mimo app enables is for me to mount the Pocket 4P on a tripod, walk away from the camera and into my composition, remotely monitor what the camera is seeing so that I can make sure that I'm in the correct spot in my composition, and then start and stop recording. And if you've ever tried filming yourself as your subject when you're standing far away from the camera, you know how much time, energy, and frustration this app can save you. It's one of those features that doesn't really show up in conversations or on spec sheets, but out here in the real world, the Mimo app is such a game changer for solo filmmakers like me. Another big step forward on the Pocket 4P is color and the addition of D-Log and D-Log 2. And besides the dual camera system, this is probably the biggest upgrade in the Pocket 4P for me. You now get proper log profiles across the system, with D-Log available on the wide and telephoto lens, and D-Log 2 only available on the wide-angle lens. DJI claims that D-Log 2 can capture up to 17 stops of dynamic range, which is absolutely crazy. And honestly, it looks pretty great, and I've been really impressed so far. I can't testify whether this is actually 17 stops of dynamic range, just because I don't know the science behind that, but it's enough dynamic range to get you by, that's for sure. Here are a few before and after shots captured on the Pocket 4P using the wide-angle lens and D-Log 2. For this color grade, I brought everything into DaVinci Resolve and used my EndurGrade power grades, along with a standard color space transform from D-Log. And here's another example of D-Log versus D-Log 2, so that you guys can see any difference. And these are shot with the same settings besides the color profile. While we're on the topic of color, there's one pretty noticeable limitation I've run into with the Pocket 4P. And honestly, it's my biggest gripe with this camera so far. And it's that D-Log 2 is only available on the wide-angle lens. So if you're shooting with a custom user profile and you're trying to toggle between the wide-angle lens and the telephoto lens, and you have your color profile set to D-Log 2, the camera actually won't let you toggle between the lenses. You end up having to go back into the settings, change your profile to D-Log, and then reframe your shot. And this is so frustrating when you're out in the field and you're trying to recompose shots, and yeah, it's causing me a lot of headaches so far, and I'm really hoping DJI can provide some sort of fix for this. Ideally, I'd love to see D-Log 2 added to the tele lens via a firmware update, but if that's not possible, I would at least love DJI to enable a feature where if you are shooting in D-Log 2 on the wide angle and toggle to the tele, the interface automatically toggles the tele lens to D-Log. And yeah, I just feel like that would be the easiest fix for now until they're maybe able to add D-Log across the board. At the end of the day, the best camera is still the one that you actually bring with you. And what I really like about the Pocket 4P is it makes that decision easy. It's small enough that there's almost no reason not to have it on you. Do I think the Pocket 4P replaces my main camera rig? Probably not. There are still plenty of situations where I want the flexibility, image quality, and control of a larger setup. But where I do see this camera fitting into my workflow is on longer hikes, more personal trips, or days where filmmaking isn't my main focus, but I still want to capture life as it unfolds. I can also see the Pocket 4P being really useful in dynamic situations like on polar expeditions or scenic flights, places where having the added stability of the gimbal is more important than having the control or image quality of a larger setup. All this being said, the Pocket 4P is still a huge step forward for the Osmo system, and I'll definitely be carrying this camera on me more often than not. So if you've got any questions about the Pocket 4P, leave them in the comments section below, and I'll get to as many of them as I can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.